Recording in progress.
All right, there. We all stand? I
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Councilmember Compton,
Here.
Emmeline Baker, here. Farrell, here. Happy,
Here.
Keller,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Mayor Fallon, here. All right, additions or amendments to the agenda, I understand we have one.
Yes, Dr. Gary's, Gary, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, the president of Mount Hood Community College is sick today and was unable to come to the presentation. So they'd like to reschedule it.
Okay. And we'll do that, so we'll remove 8B. Okay. Adoption of the consent agenda with the,
We have to approve.
approve the agenda with the amendment. For a motion,
To approve the modified agenda this evening, removing B.
second?
I'll second. I'll second it.
All right, any discussion? All right, roll call vote. Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker, Farrell, Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Fallon. Aye. All right, now adoption of consent agenda.
I move to adopt the consent agenda. Approval, including the approval of November 13, 2023 city council meeting minutes. And approval of November 13, 2023 city council workshop minutes and ratification of bills in the amount of $613,043.23.
Is there a second?
I second.
Discussion?
I was just pointing out to me that the online version of the amounts were cut off. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Oh, good one.
On this.
Thank you. All right, any other discussion? All right, roll call vote. Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker, Farrell, Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Fallon. Aye. All right, we have a presentation of Special Olympic athletes. Welcome.
Okay, so first I'm gonna give you a little rundown of the Special Olympics. Thank you to the council for allowing us to address you tonight. Special Olympics was started by Eunice Kennedy Shriver when she saw how unjustly and unfairly people with intellectual disabilities were treated. The idea of Special Olympics started in the 50s and early 60s, taking shape in 1968, gaining momentum in the US in the 70s and taking off worldwide in the 80s. Special Olympics provides opportunities for those with intellectual disabilities 8 years old and up year-round without any cost to the athletes. Fall sports are aquatics and bowling. Winter sports are basketball and snow sports. Spring, summer sports include athletics, which is track, and bocce ball, not really quite sure how to say that. So we of course just finished fall sports. I was head coach for bowling this year, and my husband was a coach. And 4 weeks ago, we had regionals held virtually in Hood River at the Orchard Lanes. Virtually means that we didn't get to participate with other, usually get together, have a track meet, sort of same thing with bowling. This year, for some reason, they didn't do it, just because 23 and everything's broken. We had, and that night, we had Councilmember Baker came to cheer on the kids. It was a very nasty, rainy night that night. We had 27 bowling athletes this year. Okay, now you guys come up. Two of which were, two of which are here tonight. We have Kiara Farrell and Denise. Come on. Oh, sorry, nobody. Well, last week we had our award ceremony / pizza party / bowling with cops and emergency services, of which Fire Chief Logan came and observed. It was really fun. It was our biggest one. We were told that never happened yet. We had police from the Dalles, White Salmon, Cascade Logs, no, not Cascade. The Hood River, and then we had fire chiefs from various different places too. So, in Special Olympics, Hierro won 4th place. This is what would be this right here. Lisa won 7th place. And this year we got to do something fun because somebody donated some older bowling trophies, so we got to do a local awards, and of course, as you can see, each one of the girls got one. Tanisha won 3rd place with her overall 83 average. Kiara won our most improved female. Starting the season with scores of 37 and 29 and ending with 60 and 44. Doing this for the first time without bumpers, because bumpers are not allowed in Special Olympics, and now she's all grown up and won't use bumpers, so none of the players use bumpers anymore, so she got most improved, so that. Olympics can always use more volunteers. I know you guys have plenty of time on your hands. No big deal. And then the next fundraiser will be the polar plunge. It will be in February. I'll put where the kids get to dip their feet in the in the river and make money for Special Olympics. So, any questions?
Thank you for the work that you're doing and ladies for your hard work too. Is it possible to get a picture with the city administrator or?
Sure.
Don't put me in the paper though.
Parents of the candidates.
It can go out in our monthly newsletter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Want to do it from the tree?
Well,
Let's do it from the tree instead of TV box. Oh, we got the official city phone
city championship.
camera. Oh.
Nice. Congratulations. There we go. Oh,
That's good. She's got it.
background.
Yeah. Smile, take a couple. Good job.
All right, thank you. Congratulations, ladies. Good job. That's exciting. Tiffany, one question, when they raise for Special Olympics, does that money stay local or?
Okay, so a lot of you probably know the Special Olympics Oregon suffered some real disastrous results. They overspent money that they were expecting to receive that never came in. So because of that, there was a complete restructuring. The money that is donated specifically to an area will stay in the area because people got really frustrated because that was kind of the sort of the beginning of the demise of everything, and it was just really frustrating because we had a young lady that raised $10,000 for the Hood River Special Olympics, and that money was just packed in. Because poor choices and so after that, people just got up in arms. So yes, now money donated specifically to
It's good to know.
Hood River will stay in Hood River.
Okay.
Thanks for asking that
All right.
question.
Well, thank you for presenting.
Yeah, thank you. And I think tomorrow's Giving Tuesday. I don't know what that means, like if they're not.
All right, so, appearance of interested citizens. Do we have any?
Anybody online would like to speak, please raise your hand. Nope, we are good.
Public hearing?
No public hearing.
Okay, action items, approved McCord Creek Bridge electric redesign,
Okay. So the city of Cascade wants needs to move a section of its power lines that are under and near the I-84 eastbound bridge in McCord Creek. The city's electrical engineers, BKI, have provided 3 options for relocation. When first discussing this project with engineers, they provided a price that staff felt was way too high. They went back and reworked their estimates to determine the original estimate was way too high. They provided updated estimates. Option 1 is the one that they originally said was about $1.4 million. They now re-estimated to $947,000. This is the underground, one-time permanent move south of the highway. And I have some Google Maps to help. So this is what it currently looks like for a little bit of background. It is underground right here, and it comes to a vault. And then goes underground underneath the bridge. And then it actually goes inside the bridge right here. There's a tunnel in the bridge it goes through. Comes out to a pole right about here. And then is overhead the rest of the way. And then jumps back across the highway to serve houses on the south side and on the north side as well to serve both sides. So that's what it currently looks like. So then all of this, once it gets across the bridge, it's all overhead. Option 1 proposes staying on the south side of the bridge, going underneath this fancy new bike path they just put in, attaching to or underneath or alongside of this pedestrian bridge, staying underneath all the way along. There's a bike path that parallels the highway. Oh, let's not do that. Goes along into the parking lot for the state park here. It would, I'm not sure exactly how it would cross the parking lot, would it cross the parking lot and stay underground to this power line right here to where there is an existing crossing, and that's where it would split. So this would eliminate one crossing and get rid of about, let's see here, about 1,500 feet of overhead line. And then option 2, over that one really quick.
Option 2?
What's that?
Was option?
That was option
That's
1.
option one.
That was option 1.
And then,
Option
can I ask
2,
a quick question? You said underneath, you mean, when you're talking about, so it's underground?
underground, yes, sorry. Yeah, all the work of option 1 would be underground, except there would be a little bit of overhead. We'd have to kick out this way to reach this one house right here. But all the major work from here, this point, to the other side of the bridge would be underground, which is about 3/4 of a mile.
And can you go back to the process, McCord Creek thing? Or is it-
Yes,
Sorry, guys, I just like, I
Yep.
wanna make sure I understand this, so. Right now, it's going across the bridge.
Yeah,
It's a
so-
vault through the
yeah,
bridge.
here's what it currently does. There is a vault right about here. It actually goes through the ground underneath this bridge. And then comes underneath this bridge and then comes up into this bridge and goes through a tunnel in the side of the bridge. It's actually about on the fog line. It's about where the tunnel is. And then it's hard to tell. There is a pole. I think right here, somewhere in here, where it hits a pole and then goes overhead. It's hard to tell on here, but there is a pole that it hits.
So that road, it sounds like was engineered and built for, as a conduit for utilities? On the north side of 84 there?
Under this bridge, yeah, when the bridge was originally built, yeah, they put in it's a man-sized hole that you could crawl through. With all the snakes and spiders that join you.
I guess it just feels, again, just wanna bring up the fact that it feels like this bridge was engineered and, for the purpose of running utilities through it.
Yes,
The awareness
whenever,
of ODOT,
yeah,
and we have an easement for it, so I just, again, the fact that. We're stuck with having to deal with it.
Yeah.
Alright, keep going, I'm sorry.
I understand. So option 2, this is kind of the semi-permanent one. We would go back to the next vault, which is about 1,000 feet back to here, do a temporary crossing over the highway, and then go overhead along the north side of the highway to where it actually connects into that tunnel for the bridge, and we reuse that tunnel. come back out of here, and then instead of doing poles, go underground through this access road. So that'd be out of the way for their construction work, because they're gonna re-engineer this entire access road to get all their big equipment, put bioswales for drainage, but we would go in first, put in all of our conduit underneath any of the work they would do. It would then come back above ground right here at the end of this little isthmus, and then continue on like it has the rest of the way. That's option 2. Option 3, which is the cheapest one, is again temporary over the highway, above ground to the bridge, through the bridge. And then instead of going underground along the access road, just put in taller poles. The poles right now are not tall enough. The equipment they need would clip the power lines. So we need to put in taller poles. For both options 2 and 3, the work east of the bridge, which is the temporary crossing, and the poles along the north side would all be taken out, and it would go back underneath on the south side, once the project is done. So option 2, like I said, is semi-permanent, where the stuff on the northwest side, underground, the access road would be permanent, but on the east side of the bridge, we would go back to the way it was. The option 3, which would all be temporary, it would go back to exactly the way it was before, except taller poles along the access road.
Question.
Should we move before we discuss it, or?
This is a for clarification.
Yeah.
The going through the bridge, isn't that our entire source of mostly needing to redo this anyway? Other than the power lines being too short on the other side, because in 2 options, I saw it going through the bridge, which is gonna be replaced and torn down.
No, it's the other bridge. So
The other
it's the eastbound bridge on the south side that's gonna be replaced. So we have to get across the highway at some other point, but we can still use the conduit on the westbound bridge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we know if they have plans in the future for changing that bridge?
I would assume at some point, and that is why staff would recommend option 1 to just get the heck out of the way.
So I assume there's nothing in the easement about either bridge. I mean, we know about McCord Creek, but this other bridge that we have are running through it. There's nothing in there about who pays to relocate those utilities if that needs to have construction at a later date.
Sorry, say that again.
The other bridge, not McCord Bridge, but the other bridge west, that has the tunnel in it that you're talking about.
No, it's the same, the westbound bridge. I mean, it's the same, over the same creek. So it's the same area.
The tunnels through the bridge closest to the water.
I understand, I thought that was further west though. So it comes
Yeah.
up on the east side of McCord Creek and then goes underneath the bridge on the north side of the freeway, is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Got it, I see. Thank you.
I guess point of clarification, if we're not speaking after our motion, our recommended motion includes the loan. Possibility of the loan, and if we work to get other agencies or grants to help pay for this, that means we would pay the loan back sooner, or?
Correct, it is an option. 99.9% of grants will not let you use their funds to pay off debt. So the only option we would have is some kind of working with the state to pay it off for us. Most grants want new projects, not paying off debt.
And then can we move for an option and still not choose a loan yet? Is there time for that?
No, there isn't. We have to move forward with this.
Okay.
We have a year, October, 11 months at this point, October 31st, 2024, for this to be done. If we're not done in time, the state will fine us a very large amount of money.
So Jordan and I and Derek, we drove out there, and the challenges on if you show the road where we come off the freeway, we drive back in. the poles, that seems to be the problem with the poles. And if we spend the money to put in new poles or put higher poles in, that service road, they're gonna use it continually, so you could probably forecast that something else is gonna come along, or they're gonna need to do additional work on the bridge, and they're gonna say, we can't get our vehicles through here because the poles are in the way. So it's not a very wide road, and the poles pretty much hug it. So it's, makes it problematic. So what we need is a motion for one of the options. We can second that, then go into discussion.
Well, I mean, I still have the other part regarding the finance side.
All right, go for that.
It's pretty steep in there too, right? Like it's
It is,
pretty,
it's, yeah, just looking at an aerial view, it doesn't look like that big of a creek. It's deep, it's big,
Mhm.
yeah.
Councilman Keller, you had your hand up.
Questions about permitting and getting, I mean, do we have enough time to get approval to go under the bridge on the pedestrian pathway and to do all of that work with the pedestrian pathway? And
Yes.
do we have to get an easement to do that?
The ODOT will work with us to streamline as much as possible. It's more of the actual permitting the work to happen with the Multnomah County National Scenic Area, but ODOT will help us with it. Cause, yeah. The other issue is if we go with option 2 or 3, is we actually start getting into railroad right of way. And it kind of smushes as along the highway here, and actually a portion of the railroad right of way creeps into the bridge. It's really weird how it ended up like that, but,
It's tight.
we'd rather not deal with railroad. They are a giant pain on the bottom, as you probably learned from the quiet zone fiasco. Those of you that remember it. So, yeah. Where it started out as $100,000 project and is now $500,000.
Yeah, I did deliver the letter to Mr. Helfrich.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
No,
we've talked to him.
okay.
Do you want to talk about the sheet?
Yeah, and are there any questions about the options for laying out the power lines?
No.
Okay. I will mention, none of these will require any really major interruptions in power service, so. So financing, I did talk to the OR folks at the OTIB, Oregon Transportation Infrastructure Bank. Our project would be approved for funding. I sent off these rough amounts based off the options from our engineer. I rounded up slightly just for easier numbers. $1 million loan for 10-year term is an annual payment of $121,000 with total payment of $1.2 million. 20 years is $77,000 with 1.5 total payment. 30 years is $62,000, almost $63,000 with a $1.8 million payback. And then 850, again, it's 103, 65, and 53,000 with payments of, total payments of 1 million, 1.3 million, and 1.6 million. 750,000 loan, is 91,000 payment, $56,000 payment, 46,000 payment annually. For total payments of 908,000, 1.1 million, and 1.4 million. Although, the actual amount paid is almost double the amount we'd actually get the loan for, doing a 30-year loan. Staff recommends doing 30-year loan just because of the lower monthly or yearly payments. We did take into account, we have a loan coming due also for the Special Public Works Fund as part of our EDA grant to update our electrical system, and that's gonna be $58,000 a year. So that would be $110,000 a year in extra payments coming out of the electric department that, other than our new rate increases, is not really budgeted for at the moment.
Is there any prepayment penalty, like if we
No,
pay
there is not.
extra money on it, or?
Nope.
Okay, and we could put that directly towards principal.
Correct. Yep, yeah, no early payment penalties. And it's almost like a line of credit. We can say we have this project, we think, on the high end, 1.5 million in the application. If it only ends up being $900,000, and that's what the loan's for. And once the final payment is done and the project's done, then that amount is set in.
So is it possible to take, if it's like a line of credit with a cap, possible to take out what we need when we need it? Thus, if we get extra money to finish it, then it's not paying off the loan? Does that make sense?
Correct, yeah, so it is reimbursement based. If we start the project and we're halfway through it, and then we get money from the state to finish paying for it, then we just stop taking money. Is that kind of what you're?
Yes, that was the question.
And then basically, we would only have, if we only spent half of our $1 million, we'd only actually have a loan of 500,000.
Correct, yeah, whatever we actually disbursements we request.
In our budget. How significant is the difference between the 30 and 20-year plan? Because to me, that doesn't look like a huge difference. I mean, like, yeah, it's like $15,000, but $15,000 in a year saves us $200,000 of total repayment. It just seems like the 30-year plan seems like a lot of extra money that we're paying towards interest.
But only if we take 30 years.
Yeah, but how many of our current loans do we have that we have paid off early?
Zero.
My point.
Yeah.
Most, you pay what you have to, and then you.
If you get extra money, then yeah. So yeah, back to your question, I have not had a chance to really do a deep dive into the budget and see how our new electrical rates have affected it moving forward. So I can't answer your question.
Okay. Councilman, happy, your hand up?
Yeah, that's all right. I can't remember what it was.
Okay.
We'll come back to me.
All right.
Do we discuss more, or would you like a motion?
Oh, I remember my question now.
Oh,
okay. Thank you.
Council, what happened?
As it may kind of relate to my own personal comfortability with, taking out a loan, I guess. Do we have any update on where we are with potentially getting some political support?
Well, Mr. Helfrich, we reached out to him, and then he's contacted you, is that right?
I haven't heard from him now. No. Unless I have a missed email, I haven't got anything.
No, you did miss the email, or he missed the email, and then he was gonna get back to you.
Yeah, and I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
I think that's where Mark Johnson comes in, because Mr. Helfrich is a Republican and the Democrats control the House right now. And Mark Johnson has good rapport with the Democrats also. So he would be the one to help us on that side of the House.
Well, I think that, with in regards to Mr. Johnson, that's part of, Jordan's report, so I'd like to cross that bridge when we get to that point, cross that bridge.
I'd like to call to make a motion. I motion to approve option 1 for the McCord Creek Bridge electrical relocation with an estimated cost of, I wanna say $1 million, but probably not, estimated cost of $947,000. And use a loan from the Oregon Transportation and Construction Bank with a 30-year term.
Is there a second? Seconded. Okay, discussion. Now we can go into discussion.
I'm still hoping we might be able to get some money halfway through the project or sooner. So it's not such a loan, giant loan, and that we can make a concerted effort to try to pay it off sooner toward the principal, so we aren't paying that extra 15,000, and yet we're not putting our city in financial risk because this was an unexpected cost. And then I know you, at the top under financing, you said, a lobbyist, and and members of council working different angles, as well as city administrator looking for funding. We all do the best we can. That's why, and I don't see the value in doing anything temporary that may cause issues with the railroad, that may have to be redone again. I think this, saving 1,500 feet of underground instead of overhead, because we know that that is the way of the future and less fire risk. So we've had a lot of expenses in, if I'm remembering correctly, in tree fall in that area, damaging our lines in the past, and that's very expensive.
One item I did forget to mention, my lines are all screwy, is this section right here is filled with a bunch of dead trees, is actually owned by the railroad, which we cannot touch without their permission. And they are very big sticklers on what we can and cannot do.
So would that be,
And
a reduced risk with option one, or is that?
Yes, oh, yes.
Okay.
So
That's why
it's
I'm-
not if, it's when these trees are gonna fall over.
And when Jordan and Derek and I went out, and actually looked at the site, it's quite interesting going that road. I don't ever recommend it by yourself. It's pretty sketchy. But, Derek was confident if we came in on the south side, and went underground that way, he said that was his recommendation. He liked that. He says it's the most permanent. We're not gonna have to go back and redo it. And then also he said something about there would be no power interruption getting it switched. And so that means Multnomah Falls and all of those residences, there wouldn't be any interruption of power. The other way, there might be.
There could be
interruption.
minimal, maybe a couple hours,
Right,
but yeah, but if we do it the underground, it would just flip a switch and it's rerouted.
so that was another positive thing on it as well. Main thing is, I mean, there's a lot of things, but the railroad in itself, that is a logistic. That could be really time consuming, and I know we're on a time schedule. Sounds unhappy.
I won't dispute this has to happen, and we're on the timeline, and we're kind of stuck. But I still feel like it's not really, something we should have been stuck with, so in any case, I'm glad that we're, looking to try to make some, I guess. We need to get this done, but yeah, I think that we can't give up on the idea of trying to
Right,
get some, I guess people accountable, need to be really paying for it.
right. I think all of us feel this level of frustration.
It makes me nervous, though, that we don't really know how, this is gonna affect the budget. We haven't crunched the numbers. We just did this rate analysis with one of the goals in mind of trying to get to the required, fund balance that are required to maintain. And now we're looking at committing to $62,000, $625, annual payment on this loan. So. I guess that is, a concern that we did this rate analysis, but it wasn't with this in mind.
Correct, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Panda?
Yeah, I do.
Councilman Compton, go ahead.
I did a quick. Just calculation on this, and if we do the 20-year time schedule, it's $14,575 more a month,
A year.
or a year, not a month, a year. And it is $334,698 less off the total loan amount. I feel like, yes, paying more upfront hurts a little, but the amount of money we're just giving to ODOT, who screwed us with this deal in the first place, because this is a bank through ODOT, basically, right?
Yes, it's their bank, yep.
We're giving them an extra $300,000 for raking us over the coals is not good for us as a town either, because we're talking about, we need to keep $1 million in our electrical system, but you can't keep $1 million in there if you're giving away $300,000 over 10 years.
30 years.
Well, there's a 10-year difference.
Wow.
I would be willing to make a friendly amendment and change it to a 20-year term if this body thought 20-year term was better.
Here's something to think about, Jordan, what if we kept it 30 years, but we made the extra monthly payments? And then it just goes off principle.
We could do that, yeah.
And then we would, in essence, if we,
Yeah, I mean, we could do the 30-year with the lower annual payment, and then when we come to doing the budget cycle, if we can fit extra payments into it, we can budget it.
that's about happy.
Is there any benefit as far as shorter term with a better rate? Or is it all?
Yes, so the shorter the term, the shorter, the smaller the interest rate, the lower the interest rate, correct.
But again, my main concern, that I said just a moment ago, is I was uncomfortable with the $62,000 a month, or I keep saying a month.
I said it first, sorry.
Annual.
And I hear what, Councilor Compton's bringing up about the interest, and that irks me as well. But the idea of committing ourselves to even 14,000 and change, more than what I already feel uncomfortable with, makes me more uncomfortable. I like the flexibility of the 30-year term, and the ability to make extra payments if we have the funds to do so. But it gives us the option of making just the minimum required payments.
When the 77,200 is a month is only 6,400.
Annual.
No, 77,200 annually is 6,400 a month, roughly. So like 6,000 a month is a lot, but it's also not nearly as much as like, when you put it in big numbers, it seems a lot, but like 6,000 a month for our electrical department would hurt, but it's not that different than.
It's less than we pay for law enforcement monthly.
Could we add to the motion,
I don't know if that's.
we'd add extra monthly payments, as, I mean, do we specify that or not?
That would be set in the budget.
Okay.
So the difference monthly is like $1,000.
Well, hang on, Councilman Happy.
I have a hard time when I look at how much we pay for a copier a month, $369 a month, or whatever it is, like $1,000 a month. I think of all the things we could do with those funds. $62,000 a year would almost cover the cost of adding an additional, law enforcement officer, and 50% of it. Yeah, so to me, it's, I don't know, I feel like we need to keep our cash, and it's, what kind of a rate are we talking about?
For 20, well, for the 30-year rate, I wanna say it's about 4.8%. Relatively low, at least compared to mortgage.
And what's the 20-year?
I think they're 4.3 and a 10-year was 3.8.
And is it possible to refinance these things when interest rates go down?
That is, no, I have to check that one.
And they're saying annual payment, but if we made monthly payments, well, we can do that, right?
I don't know, but yeah, we could probably figure it out, how they do their payment structure, yeah.
Because that could change your interest we pay as well. If we're paying towards it monthly versus annually. Something to think about. Okay. So I know this is a really tough decision on council. This is something that was brought attention like 4 years ago, that council was unaware of it. And so, but now we are. It's our job to make tough decisions. And this is something we have to get done. So it's which alignment, which route, how we're gonna pay for it. I don't think any of us like it. Councilman Miller?
I still want to know where do we fit Mark Johnson in here? Do we do it in this motion, or do we have to make a separate motion for him?
It's,
Okay.
it's not a part of this motion, this, Mark Johnson, he's in, Mr. Bennett's report, and at that time we can discuss it.
Well, it's part of this report that we're discussing.
While we're discussing financing and,
And this is part of that financing, is figuring out the total cost that we'll pay.
I made a motion with a second, and I would like to do that without identifying persons. But we identify the amount, the option, and the year.
so Councilman Keller had your hand up, and so did you, Tim, but let's go.
It seems to me that if we throw in a lobbyist into this, that would require some sort of a resolution or some sort of agreement to justify those funds at a separate vote. I believe, my understanding is that we have to figure out how to do this project and pay for this project. And if that is process that we wish to pursue, then we go down that road.
Councilmember Farrell.
Basically,
Mr. Mel, I don't understand what was wrong there. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you seem to disagree with me.
Yeah, I do disagree, because I feel that getting the lobbyist on board is imperative so that we can get to work on the people in Salem and back east that can give money to us. I think this is an investment on our part to lower that $62,000 a year payment. Because anything he can bring in will lower that payment.
Councilman Miller, that's gonna be a separate issue with separate, where it's gonna take consensus of council to do that. Right now, we have to figure out which route we're gonna go, loan, how long, we need to do that. That, Mr. Johnson is separate from this. Councilman Farrell, you had your hand up?
it's sort of on the same lines as he had said was, I feel that we need to go ahead with a financing plan because we're on a time crunch. And then if we can get someone to help us after that to lower it or whatever is kind of, at least that's my understanding of what we're trying to do right now.
Correct, yes, you guys make whatever decisions you want, but we need to move forward on this project.
That's where we're at.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any-
My worry is that if we don't approve a debt financing right now, we'll get down the road to where we've started construction and we owe money and we don't have the funds because we were hoping that somebody else would come through and save us. That's my fear.
I think it benefits to be proactive, not be fined. So is there any other discussion? There's been a motion, it's been seconded. All right, seeing no other discussion or roll call vote?
Councilmember Crofton,
Aye.
Emmeline Baker,
Aye.
Farrell,
Question, we're still doing the 30-year or the?
Third.
Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. It passes.
Thank you, council.
So now when do we talk about Mark Johnson?
In Mr. Bennett's report, there's a item on there, and then we can talk about that.
Okay.
All right, action items, we did A, so planning commission appointment. Taylor Keller.
I abstain from this conversation as she is my spouse.
All right, thank you. Okay.
So on that note, because Micaela is Councilor Keller's spouse, there is no inherent conflict of interest with him being on council and her being on planning commission. Very rarely does anything actually come from planning commission to city council. If something does, Councilor Keller will need to just do exactly what he did, declare that there is a relationship between those two and ask council if they would like him to step aside. If council there is consensus, he needs to abstain from the vote, he will. But there, I don't see any scenario where it'd be a conflict of interest, because it would be a conflict of interest for Micaela on the planning commission if it was whatever they were voting on in the first place.
Sorry, say that again.
So,
That confused me.
so her being on the commission is not a conflict of interest in itself. If it was a conflict of interest, then it would have been a conflict of interest for her in the first place. So she would have to abstain from the vote. And it's something to do with a personal business, their own personal land. That's the only way to be a conflict of interest, and she would abstain from the vote anyways.
So, and, because we know that we're not supposed to discuss individual land use issues,
Correct.
because those are the appeal body for.
Yeah. And I have already talked to both Micaela and Eric. They are not allowed to discuss between themselves at home any of these issues. That's where another issue would be in. It has to be in public settings. So they could communicate with each other on these issues outside of the public meeting.
Can I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay,
Small town politics. Yes.
okay. So we're looking, is there a motion?
And, well, I move that we accept Micaela Keller as a planning commission committee member.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, discussion?
I'm proud that she has planning experience. That's pretty exciting, as well as known, visible leadership in our communities. So and as a part of the PTO, knows a lot of our families. And that's great to see the growing needs of our families. So I'm kind of excited for that person on our commission. I think that will help round out our current committee members. And I trust in her professionalism as well as Councilman Keller's, that they will not discuss things that they're not discussed. So I'm very confident about that.
Any other discussion? Councilman Miller?
When the state sees conflict of interest in a narrow view, it sees it as financial gain, and that's it. But conflict of interest occurs in a situation in which a person is in a position to derive personal benefit from the actions or decisions that are being made. It is just not financial gain. It can be less tangible benefits, and perception of conflict of interest is if the people perceive by Micaela being on planning commission and Eric being on council, that this is a conflict of interest, and then that erodes the trust that is in city government. So that's just too close, and because we oversee what planning commission does, I could not go to that. I mean, she's highly qualified. If Eric wasn't a city councilor, then I would have voted yes. But under this situation, I'll vote no.
Any other discussion?
And
Councilman Hacker?
I just want to say, looking at her application, just a ton of experiences. Others have brought up, well, in her involvement with the PTO and the community, but also with the county, and planning in particular. I think that she's a very strong candidate. The one issue I had going into this, reading the agenda, was what was brought up previously about, potentially the conflict of interest. But it sounds like even in a situation where
Mr. Keller had to excuse himself from a vote, we would still have 6 people that could vote. So I guess that addresses my concern, that even in a rare situation that might come up, we still have, a way around that.
Any other discussion? Councilman Carr?
I definitely feel that it's a conflict of interest. She's definitely qualified for the position. But, there's no checks or balances on whether they're holding up their end of the honor system, not talking about it at home. We have no way of knowing that, and so I feel uncomfortable with it.
Okay. Councilmember Happy?
I just had to read this on record. Oregon Government Ethics Law identifies and defines 2 types of conflict of interest. An actual conflict of interest is defined in ORS 244.020, and a potential conflict of interest is identified in ORS 244.020, parentheses 3, subsection 13. In brief, a public official is met with a conflict of interest when participating in official action which would or could result in financial benefit or detriment to the public official, a relative to the public official, or a business which either is associated in. We've had 2 counselors say that there's a conflict of interest. We've had our city administrator say it's not a conflict of interest, and according to the Oregon State ORS, it's not a conflict of interest unless it's a financial benefit or detriment to the public official. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Councilmember Emmeline Baker?
And I want to go on record saying that it's a small town. We've had voting on various, like the museum and members of board members, or the Gorge Country Club members of board members. There are many opportunities to be involved cross committee in this small town, and honoring somebody and trusting that they say they will do what they're going to do, to me is of high value and shows that we trust our own council members. I think that is a larger statement of building trust than saying, well, we're not quite sure what they might say at home. I think that we stand behind our bodies and say, we trust you. That's what it is.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Compton?
I just have to say that for those that are fearful of conflict of interest, Councilmember Keller has already shown that he is willing to, at any time that there is anything to do with his wife, or probably even from this point on, the planning commission, that he's gonna recuse himself, which pulls out any conflict of interest, because if you're not voting on anything, and you're not gaining from it, then it's not conflict of interest. And like Councilmember Happy said, the legal statutes of it from Oregon, the Oregon revised statutes, or it's only financial. And Micaela would be on her own, would be required to, on ethics, to recuse herself at the lower level, if anything were to cross that boundary. So I feel like it's kind of not helpful, especially with all her experience, to block her on the reasons of conflict of interest. I just don't see it.
Hey, any other discussion? All right, there's been a motion in a second, so roll call vote. Councilmember?
Excuse me, but we've always done appointments to committee by consensus, not by roll call vote. And right now, you don't have a consensus.
We have it under an action item. Logan, what's your comments on?
I guess I don't know enough history of what we've traditionally done.
Why don't we just,
I'm
may I
looking
look at our
Yes,
council
at the notes
procedures?
right now.
please do.
It says, Section 10.1, the mayor is responsible for appointing members to said committees, and all appointments are subject to council approval. Doesn't say consensus.
But that is past history, is that we've always done it by consensus, not a roll call vote.
I read a quote recently that said, the most dangerous words that can be said in a meeting are, that's how we've always done it. According to our documents, all appointments are subject to council approval.
We have never voted on a tourism committee person, though. He is correct about that.
Councilmember Happy.
Yeah, I agree that it doesn't require a motion and a vote. I think that we need to follow the council procedures, and what it says in the council procedure is that the mayor is responsible for appointing committee members, and all appointees are subject to council approval, but that doesn't mean that it requires consensus of council, and, but it's really the mayor that's appointing somebody.
Well, I think, Mrs. Keller, she, I feel confident with her ability. I mean, it's quite something to have someone who, for the knowledge, who works with her in planning, and her skill set would be, it would just, I think it would benefit our planners here in Cascade Locks. And to agree with Councilmember Crumpton, when if it comes to a vote, Councilmember Keller cannot go recruit himself, then that takes out any conflict of interest. And then as Councilmember Happy read in the rules that it is not a conflict of interest. So I would like to appoint her. I think she's a qualified candidate. Yes, in a small town, things are gonna overlap. But I think she would be a valuable asset to the plan.
Because we put it under action item, might that lead to a roll call vote or not?
No, appointments by consensus are also an action item.
I make a motion to approve Micaela Keller as. We do.
There's been a motion,
Mm-hmm.
and there's been seconded, we've had discussion, and so now we just.
What's the problem?
It is under an action items. We vote on. So. Councilman.
Am I allowed to speak on procedure? I don't want to violate anything that would cause a conflict of interest or anything. I would like to discuss solely on procedure.
Absolutely, please do.
When I watched and partook in the port meeting last week, if they did not feel that they had a consensus, then they went to a roll call vote.
So, how does council feel about that?
I think
I would like to follow what our rules say that we
the
have.
rules say subject to council approval, and I think a roll call vote might lead to council approval or disapproval.
Because it doesn't say consensus,
No,
correct?
Yep, that makes sense to me.
Okay, so
Thank you for
let's,
that clarification.
so let's stick with a roll call vote for this. It does not say consensus. So there's been a motion, it's been seconded, we've had discussion, so let's do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Evelyn Baker,
I,
Farrell,
No,
Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Abstain.
Miller,
No,
Mayor Fallon.
Aye. Oh, welcome, Micaela. Plan. We're skipping Mount Hood Community College, so. Bennett report, city administrator.
Okay, so we have updated crime stats from the Hoodville Sheriff's Office. I printed out August, September, and October for 2021, 22, and 23 for comparison. The percentage changes are from 22 to 23. Quite a bit of a drop in terms of calls for August, actually, and October and September. I don't know if that's due to the lack of hours that they, but, you know, it's also a call, so somebody called them out there, so. I'm not sure how that's reported, but it's definitely a drop in calls. But cases, for the most part, are, I mean, down in August, but way up in September and steady in October, so. I'm not really sure what to make of these numbers. EDA grants, as I mentioned in the report from this previous meeting, the port has decided not to partner with the city on the electrical system upgrade. Based off this discussion, the city submitted a scope of work change to the EDA on November 22nd. The biggest request for change was the addition of the purchase of a larger substation. The original scope of work had the city using the substation that we were acquiring from the BPA and combining it with the pyramid substation to increase the city's total capacity from 14 megawatts to 20. This new scope of work proposes the city buying a 40 megawatt transformer to replace the BPA's 6 megawatt transformer and using the pyramid substation as the city's backup. This proposed plan doubles the original proposed capacity of the city and provides the city with a true backup substation. To offset this cost, we are asking that any and all underground work originally proposed to be done in the park be removed, as the port has stated they have no desire for that work. The increased power capacity will go to the business park's front door at the intersection of Forest Lane and Industrial Park Way. We should hear back from the EDA in January if they accept our scope of work. And after I wrote this and submitted this, I found out, which I completely mixed things together, is EDA requires a 20% match in funds. So I have to do some rearranging of funding on this request I put to the EDA, so that's in the works. We ended up asking for about $700,000 more money to cover the cost of the new transformer. I'm not sure what the reasoning was. Like I said, the original proposal was to use the 6 megawatt transformer the BPA is selling us. It was built in 1951 and it uses some kind of gas to cool it or operate it, and it leaks like a sieve. So we're looking to replace it. It's too old, it's too small to even handle what the city does right now. So that's why we're looking to replace it. Any questions on that? Yes.
So if the port is not interested in partnering with us on the EDA, or the electrical system upgrade, is that because they don't expect that they have a need or is it just that, I mean, why are we, getting more power, but if they're not interested in the more power, does that make sense?
Yeah, so they obviously have had their change in leadership and they're working on their business strategy. From what in conversations that I had, they currently and probably will not have any interest in recruiting high energy users. So any data centers using 10, 15, 30, 40 megawatts are probably not gonna happen. I can't say for sure, but it doesn't look like it's in their plans. The reason we were going after the 40 megawatt was because of those high energy users. However, if we can get it, the city is set. I mean, that will be our transformer for the next 100 years. And the only way we would get anywhere close to using 40 megawatts is if they brought in a high energy user. We could increase our population to 5,000, rebuild downtown, bring in small manufacturers, fill up the business park, and we're probably still only about 20 megawatts. I mean, 40 would be plenty. The only way we would get close are those high energy users.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
So we get the 40 megawatt as our primary substation that replaces the BPA substation.
Yeah.
The 14 megawatt substation we currently have would then become our backup.
Yeah.
If 40 megawatts is our primary, how does 14 megawatts provide enough power to be our backup?
It's only temporary. So the next step, as soon as this is complete, would be to work on replacing that so they match each other. Yeah.
Thank you.
I gotta start somewhere, unfortunately, yeah. The problem with this now, honestly, is that the whole point of this grant was to get power out to the business park. And in the original documents, it talked about Renewal Workshop, it talked about Oregon Mines, which is a cryptocurrency company, and all these other businesses that never came, or left, or just haven't materialized yet. So there's some wordsmithing I need to do. Yes,
Thank you, and I appreciate that it says we're not going underground in the park, but we're ending at Forest Lane and, the industrial park, so that developers then can take.
correct, it's a
Correct.
the front door. Which is actually typical, now, it's not very often that the utility actually will pay for having power lines installed on somebody else's property.
Mhm.
There is another option, we're looking possibly at a smaller 20 MW transformer if we can't get this additional funding. It's about 2/5 the cost of the larger one.
So what's the point then?
For the project itself,
Yeah.
it's a good.
I mean, it seems like it's an incredible amount of work on your plate, and we've already have decided that we're paying McCord tens of thousands of dollars to monitor this grant.
Yep.
And we're not seeing any really benefit out of it, other than an incredible amount of increased cost to us.
Well, we end up with a new to us transformer that quadruples the amount of power the city has the capacity to provide.
And it's not leaking,
Yes,
and it's updated.
So yes, it may not fit the intended goal of the project, but it will set the city in terms of power capacity for the next, 5 decades, at least. Well, after we're all gone.
So if there's potential growth on port property, it's up there, it's up to them or the developers to move it in.
And the capacity is not limited to the business park, it will be designed to spread throughout the whole city.
and the keynote speaker at the McCord, conference here recently, who spoke about AI, said that every business electrical capacity will increase as they become more digitized, which meets every grocery store, restaurant, was his projection. So the idea that we are going to need electricity is important, yeah.
The idea that forced EVs on the populace is gonna increase electrical needs by 50% right there. So we have to be ahead of the game.
Councilmember Cheryl, you had your hand up?
If by chance some, larger company just happens to just drop in the port's lap and they approve then, of that company, can we revisit them going back to helping us pay for this? And
Yes, typically, these larger companies like Google and the Dows, they buy and install their own transformers. The city usually doesn't, for those larger companies, the city doesn't pay for it, or the public utility district doesn't pay for it. So if something that big does happen to Cascade Locks, they'll probably pay for it to ensure they have their own dedicated power. The other folks, Roundhouse, as you're all aware, were slightly shady. In my opinion, you might not agree with me, but
But that doesn't mean that the next one in line that comes up in the future will be,
correct,
that's all.
correct.
Right.
And the city can't take the stance, is if we can't provide the power, we can't provide the power. If you want it, you're gonna have to pay for it.
I do think it's wise, Councilman, member Miller said we do need to stay ahead of the game.
Yes, yeah, the 14 we have right now, although it's only at half capacity, will be eaten up relatively quickly. I did meet myself, Groundman Derek, and engineers from BPA. I met with folks from BPA at the Cascade Lock substation back on November 17th. To discuss exactly what we're buying and at what point transfer of ownership happens. Yeah, the map here again to give you all an idea. If I can find it. So this line, this big line that carves through the side of the mountain belongs to the EPA. This comes down into our system. At this point right here is when we take ownership of all the equipment and the power becomes ours. So everything north of this structure, including that structure, will belong to us, the city, except, and the land. And the land itself, there's an access road right here, so we will own roughly this land right here. There is 1 meter that BPA will retain ownership of in this building here, but everything else become property of the city.
What's the point of the meter?
So they can figure out how much to charge us.
Okay.
How much we're using.
Can negotiate that away.
One discussion point we are having is operation and maintenance of what's called a 115 kilovolt line, which is like the really big stuff that typical cities, at least smaller utilities, aren't qualified to do. So we can pay BPA to maintain those lines for us. So it would be reclosure switches, I think reclosure switches, and then the 115 line that goes across to the pyramid substation, and that's built into our monthly bill to BPA.
Any other questions? Alright,
Strategic plan review, I have got feedback from 5 of you so far. Looks like Wednesday the 13th at 6 p.m. looks to be the best. I have a quorum. I have not heard back from, unless I missed it, Councilor Miller or Councilor Compton.
I tried sending that thing on that doodle thing,
Oh,
didn't work.
good to know. Okay.
And forgive me, I've been a little busy.
Oh,
This date works, 6 p.m. is a little on the early side for me. I can try to make it at 6, it's just,
just get here when you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
leaving at 5:30, and it takes a little longer than 30 minutes to get from my job to here. It's.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be 6, if council wants to move it, I just. 7's kind of a late start time.
The idea was 6 o'clock, so we were figuring 3 hours, right?
Yeah, up to 3 hours, yeah, depending on how detailed council wants to get.
I think that's
We can keep it 6, I mean, just because I can't get here at 6, so then you guys can't start.
You'll be here shortly, okay,
Exactly.
all right.
Okay, well, if there's agreement with council, we will get it posted tomorrow with an agenda.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, I think that the idea that, I like the doodle thing, I didn't have any issues with it, but I guess if anybody has problems with that in the future, probably the best course of action is to call you so you can voice your vote.
Yeah, and Tamara did email me her.
I
vote.
screenshotted it, shot it.
And,
And I think
That's what I did too. I wouldn't submit. I know.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, perfect.
Might be our phones.
No, I think it's the user.
Okay, so per council direction, I reached out to Mark Johnson to discuss possible lobbying work on behalf of the city. Secure state and or federal funding for the electrical line relocation at McCord Bridge attaches for review as a proposed scope of work for Mark Johnson. His expenses would come out of miscellaneous contract expenses within the electrical utility. He's got a scope of work here, establish a communication plan to make sure we're all on the same page when we do reach out, so he's not saying something different that I am saying, that the mayor's saying, that Councilor Keller's saying, whoever it is, we wanna make sure we're on the same page, so develop that. Working closely with the governor's regional solutions team to streamline the permitting process. Engage state legislators to build engagement with the project and raise awareness of the city situation. Work with congressional level politicians, Wyden, Merkley, and Blumenauer, office to raise awareness at the federal level. And then communicate regularly with myself and council about his progress on the project. Proposed a 4-month time period, December through March. The short session for Oregon State Legislature starts first of February and runs through mid-March. So cover the legislation session. And would charge a $2,500 per month fee plus mileage and reasonable expenses for travel. For meetings related to the project. He would consider this about a quarter time's worth of work, so.
So, and then to bring council up to speed, Mr. Johnson is no longer with the port. So he is no longer working with the port as of today. Remember,
It is my concern that we possibly do an RFP or look at proposals from other possible lobbyists. I know that I looked at, influential lobbyists in Oregon. I shared with email with Administrator Bennett. We might ask the port who they're working with. I would like to see at that amount of money, an RFP, but it seems that we shouldn't just hand it to somebody.
the port is going in a new direction, and so I think they have some really good connections that might benefit us.
What is the requirement for sending when do we have to send something out for RFP?
So a formal RFP, the requirement's $150,000. For quotes, I think it's $50,000 for the state. I don't remember off the top of my head. Our policy is, let me check really quick.
I don't see that waiting around is gonna benefit us at all. Mark's right here, he knows the people, he's even talked to some of them already. The longer we wait, the harder it is going to be to get the grants or get these people on board in time. I mean, we're already almost into December, and you send out an RFP over the holiday season. You're looking February before we even select somebody, and that's when he'll be talking to them while they're in session. I mean, that's
How
really,
long does RFP have to be up for?
2 weeks. I believe.
So if we did it quickly, it's possible at our December council meeting, we could.
we only have one December council meeting, that's the next one.
And
I would like to give the port the opportunity though to partner with us, and I know they have some really strong candidates. And I think they're, Councilman Miller, please let me finish. I'm not done, and so I would like to see what direction they're going, and I know if we're partnering up as a team for certain things, for Cascade locks, it might benefit us. So.
We are not partnering with the port on this electrical endeavor. This is all the city's work, so why do we want to wait on them? I mean, that's just ludicrous.
Well, Councilman Miller, maybe partnering is not the actual appropriate word, but to say to work with them. And to say they have some options that I don't believe council is aware of, and I think it would be a benefit. That's what I'm saying.
Anything the port
So
can do right now will benefit this council.
it's a matter of opinion. So,
I find it strange to ask for an RFP from lobbyists, because lobbyists don't look for work, they get asked to do work.
Yeah,
You just, when you have something like lobbyists, they're busy. They don't have problems finding people to give them money to do things. They're not, like, I wouldn't say they're looking for like quotes from small towns, like, oh, I don't know if a lobbyist that takes a quote from a small town is necessarily a good option either.
I'm
wait, hang on. Councilmember Keller.
I completely hear what Mr. Miller and what Mr. Compton are saying in regards to, he's here, he's present. Let's get on the table. My concerns lie with his ethics investigation, why he was a lobbyist for Business Oregon, and his involvement with the Roundhouse development and how that had unfolded and the financing in regards to all that. I know it's just two examples, but it seems that it's questionable in those two realms.
Councilman Miller, can I ask you to be, ask me to be recognized before speaking? All right, Councilmember Baker.
And I, too have concerns in that the board has chosen to go another direction. I'd like to hear those reasons and that, may not have anything to do with Mark Johnson, but I am unhappy that this Cascade Locks lost the funding for the Bridge of the Gods that was originally identified toward that, and it went to somebody else, and not sure a lobbyist role, if that was helpful or not helpful in that regard, as well as several discussions with state folks at various meetings about possibly lobbyists that might be more effective with this current legislature. That's what some things that I have heard.
Okay. Any other comments?
I don't like waiting to start getting, I mean, things don't happen fast in government, they just don't. And I really feel like that this is wonderful that he would do this for us. And he sure knows, he sure loves Cascade Locks. I think we should go with Mark and have him just going out there and in attack mode and just try to figure this out for us. I mean, and then with this session too in February, I don't want to wait. I want to get after it. I mean, I'm ready to go out and protest against ODOT, you know, so.
Councilmember Happy.
I guess in regards to my prior question, and Mr. Crown brought up, sounds like RFP would not be required. Number one, because it doesn't meet the spending threshold, and two, it's just not something that's generally done when you're trying to find a lobbyist to work on your behalf. Is that accurate statements?
On the state side, yes. So in our finance policy, let me bring it back up here really quick. Expenditures above 2,000 requires 3 written bids. So at this point, it would require bids under our current policy.
Okay. And but doesn't have to go out for 2 weeks. We can get the 3 bids potentially before the next council meeting.
Correct. Yeah.
And how would that be advertised?
Probably newspaper.
And because the lobbyist presented before us was recommended by a council member, then the rest of us could possibly recommend folks to make bids.
Sure, yeah. As long as it's not a conflict of interest.
Right.
So you declare it as a conflict of interest. I mean, we can do this, it's sole source purchasing process may be used if approved by the city administrator. This is more for operating expenses, but as council, you guys can, you know, if it deemed necessary to do a sole source and not actually do the bid or quote process, you guys can approve it.
Councilman Farrell.
So, since Mark Johnson's would be considered one, then we really would only need 2 more to fulfill that requirement of having 3.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Councilmember Happy.
I just want to say, I agree that I think time is of the essence, but I think it's also important that we partner with the right person and help us get the result we're looking for. And I think tabling this discussion till our next council meeting, when we maybe have a couple of, the next council meeting being December 11th, is that right? That is not that long of a delay. for us to make a more informed decision, about, who we choose to work with after we maybe have some other options to consider as well.
Councilman Keller?
Do we have a record of what specifically Mr. Johnson did to benefit the port? I mean, I don't know what the grants, I don't know. I mean, what specifically did he do to benefit the port?
Well, I think that would be something the court would have to answer to, and it's kind of going down a rabbit hole too, so.
I guess I'll clarify.
Yeah,
It says 3 written bids, it's not an actual RFP, it could be like a quote, we just got the truck box.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be the whole out in the newspaper, I can go call lobbying firms and get quotes.
Councilmember Baker.
And, is somebody here willing to check with the port's new lobbyist, if they have one, to see if they'd make a bid?
That's part of their new direction.
I mean,
So
us, oh, you don't know,
I don't know.
I mean, so we can get the name of.
I can reach out to the board and see
Okay.
what direction it's going.
Great.
Just so we know.
Okay, and I can reach out to folks and say like, that I know.
Right, and I wanna remind council too, we're all individuals, but we all collectively work as one body. So one may have an idea and you're passionate about it, another one, but it does take council as a body, as a whole body to agree on. And if there's times where there's one or two or out that disagree with the rest of the council, you gotta support council. So you guys are the elected body. So just wanted to remind everybody of that.
With my directions and look at, different options and get bids
I would like
or
that
quotes.
for our next meeting.
Consensus that
I'm okay with that.
you're okay?
So then the December, did we say 11th?
Yeah,
Let's put that on the act, can we get that as an act?
Yeah.
See, somebody can't go with it.
Yea or nay?
like this,
What are we doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Come in with my protest line.
because
I know.
I would like to see other people do other options
Okay,
for this, but we also need to do it.
correct. Correct. Okay. You good, Jordan? Good.
Main Street program support. Individuals in the community are banding together to take the next steps in the Main Street program to help redevelop businesses in the city. A part of that application, the membership into the Main Street program is a letter of support from the city. A tax review is a draft letter of support. A council consensus is needed to move forward with the letter. Councilor Farrell also brought in a letter. Did you want to read it? You want me to read it? Or-
Sure, I can read it. I'm a business person over in Stevenson. I asked what they thought of it, and this is what was written back to me. I don't think there is any business dissatisfied with the Main Street program. They are all about promoting the downtown business. They run the farmers market, holiday lighting, Christmas parade, streetery project, the mural program, Black Friday, Clicks and Bricks program, and several other events. During COVID, they helped our businesses with programs to get customers back in the restaurants. Not one business or restaurant closed in Stevenson. The Washington program is different from the Oregon program. We use tax dollars that businesses pay to the state as business and operating taxes. And the business pledged those dollars to the Stevenson Downtown Association. The businesses get a 75% tax credit on the B/O, that stands for business and occupation taxes that they pay to the state. Instead of paying our B/O taxes to the state, we get to pay directly to them to the Stevenson Downtown Association. They also said the Hood River Chamber is not a strong chamber, so for that reason, they believe that Cascade Locks needs support for their downtown business. I was also told that we're members of the Hood River County Chamber, and that chambers are county, so Cascade Locks would not start a chamber. I talked with Jeremiah, he's gonna look into that to see if that's true.
It is not.
It's not.
Yes, there's 5 or 6 chambers of commerce in
one county?
metro Portland area.
Okay,
There's the West Columbia Board, the Grafton Chamber of Commerce, sure Portland itself has multiple chambers of commerce.
interesting,
Over
okay,
each neighborhood.
okay, because Hood River's chamber is not really helping us, at least I don't see it. in some
None of them
instances.
really, all 3 that were a part of it.
Yeah,
Each city is kind of different. So like Wood Village has one, Troutdale has one.
okay.
Yeah.
And then the one thing that the person discussed with me, that I just read is that the director is the crucial piece. If no one's qualified for in Cascade Locks, then the person who knows Cascade Locks and has stated on the resume experience with agencies that are associated with helping Cascade Locks is very important. You just don't want someone coming in who doesn't know the area, doesn't know, that they're not gonna represent us properly. And Stevenson's gone through 2 prior directors, and this one, is really doing a great job. I asked about the salary, and he said that it outweighs greatly, what the director brings into the community, and that the person does live in the county that they serve over there, just FYI.
God, they have a strong one now.
I just want to add, in this application that's due January 30th, would be a team, would be a nonprofit organization, not the city. We moved from our city affiliation at Connected Communities, which is really just a participation in that we get a lot of emails. We learn about things that are happening. It would be at the affiliated level with a nonprofit, for which often city staff, city commissioners can be members, business owners. They want a diverse group of people, diverse community members, because they believe that the Main Street benefits everyone. So as the contact now, and Tammy or anybody who wanted to, I would love to set up some meetings and maybe even get someone from Main Street to get those involved who might want to be on this first committee. The first application doesn't have to have a paid staff member, but it has to say how they might pay for that staff member within 3 years. And then, as you mentioned, yes, obviously businesses are meant to be involved, landowners, the community. So it is an exciting time, and we might not get enough people they want 7, but they prefer 9 to 13 in the first application, and they want a letter of support, and they want some photos and other things that I'm willing to put together. So if you agree with this and believe we should support it, that's all the city has to do, is give a letter of support. And then I would also ask this body and the community for folks who might want to be a part of it. Again, it's volunteer, and a person isn't signing up forever, but, and then, of course, I would make a more concerted effort. I was waiting until after January 1st because of the holidays to get to do some Main Street things, but there might be a Zoom I'd like to invite folks to. So is it too late to get in the December newsletter?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So if you have any questions for me too about Main Street, I'm happy to answer them.
Is there, do we need to give them money?
No.
Okay.
No, it's a part of the Oregon Park and Rec Department, and they have money that is available once we belong, and so many grants. And to me, the biggest push, like, I don't want to wait a year because the state has allocated, I think, I've forgotten, $10 million toward the Main Street Oregon programs, of which people can apply for grants, smaller grants out of that 10 million bucket, but you must have been a member in 2024 to apply for that in 2025. So and I love learning that they understand the first time you apply, you're still working on things. You're still deciding what is our vision. Here's, 7 people that say, yes, we're gonna try. And I love that you went over to Stevenson, because I think this town, we can see a lot of things they've done. You've seen it when you go over there. I know Mayor Fallon showed me a Plaid Friday bag. She said, look at the chamber, and it said, Main Street Stevenson on it. And so they are affiliated, they've done a lot of cool things.
Looking at the draft letter though itself, the only part I don't like is the last paragraph. Rebuilding not only Cascade Locks downtown, but the entire town. I don't like the entire town part. I would like to focus on downtown with them. But unless you can,
When you mean that Cascade Locks fully supports?
the very last paragraph, it says, yeah, fully supports, and then it continues and it says downtown, but the entire town.
Well, the entire town would encompass a court. And, I mean, Cascade Locks is cold, so. Councilmember Miller?
The Main Street program is only for the downtown area, it is not for the rest of the town. And I kind of find that statement, rather disrespectful to the people that have lived here for a long time. So I would remove that completely.
Rebuilding alignment successful. Right, I'm trying to rework that sentence.
So just simply saying Main Street program and the community's mission align with the express goal of rebuilding Cascade Locks downtown.
I wouldn't even say rebuilding, I'd say
Yeah.
restoring.
Exactly, or revitalizing, how about revitalizing? Revitalizing,
So we like revitalizing?
Revitalizing Cascade Locks downtown.
Yeah, okay,
okay, thank you, good catch.
Councilmember happy that your hand up.
I just wanted to clarify that, because I thought that was a really good point, and it was just a matter of just some slight tweaking with some words, but yeah, that was great.
Any other comments or speaking on it? With that,
Yep, I'll tweak it and then have it ready for you to sign.
okay.
I have 2 quick other things not in the report, an update on the after hours number. We did change our after hour numbers for public works and for the electrical system. With our new phone company, we are able to do it. It's through go-to meeting. So Derek and the 3 folks from the public works department can put the go-to meeting app on their phone. When somebody calls that number, which is assigned to their desk phone, they'll also ring the app on their phone, and it's separate from their actual phone system. So they answer it, and they can, instead of going through a voice message system, they can answer it and get the information directly from the person calling. And when they call back out through the app, it calls back with that number they called in, and it says City of Cascade Locks. So it doesn't show their personal phone number. We started it up before Thanksgiving. They've already gotten calls. It's worked fantastic.
And they can leave a message on that.
They can leave a message.
They don't pick it up.
Yeah, correct. They can leave a message, and all you have to do is, if they're not on call, is swipe it to say silence the program. And it's super easy and costing us $1 per month for phone line, compared to about the $90 a month the messaging services charging us.
Big difference.
Yes, so I am gonna leave the old number up for electrical, through, I'm thinking December. Just while the transition is going, so in case something happens, people didn't get the message, I'm gonna leave that up for a month and then discontinue, so. Yeah, last other item is budget. We have 4 budget committee spots opening up at the end of December. Letters were sent out to the 4 members going off, see if they're interested in reapplying. We're also gonna put, advertisements up in the next newsletter as well on Facebook and the website here in the next couple weeks. So,
I had a question.
Yes.
You know the names of the 4 people that are coming on?
Tiffany was one of them, Bernard Seeger, Gwen Swanziger,
and Brian.
Brian High, yes.
Thank you, because I remember there was at least one participant was in that list that was not present for any.
Yeah, but Brian, nobody knows what happened to him. I've asked, he disappeared.
Thank you.
May I ask for the Main Street information, and I can have this body decide if we put something in the newsletter, when would you have to have something in for the January newsletter?
But January, I'd say with the holiday, probably the 20th.
Okay.
That's 2023.
Yeah, so we usually, yeah, Carrie and work on putting it together, we have it finished, and ready to print, we'll probably print it on the 26th or 27th, and have it ready to stuff with the bills. Got it. Yeah. Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
Hey, Mayor and Councilor comments. And we start with. Sure. Remember happy.
You brought up, you're talking about the phone system and go-to meeting. One of my concerns, and I mentioned that before privately with City Administrator Bennett, is that our personal cell phone numbers are listed on our council procedures, publicized in public. And we have record keeping requirements as far as our, elected officials. Potentially end up in a situation where we have citizens that are texting us about city business, there's record keeping requirements on our personal cell phone number. Is there any ability for us to use something similar to what you're doing with, go-to meetings so that we could actually have a city phone number for all city councilors that could be?
I could look into it, yes. It may be a little more expensive because it won't be a redirect from a phone.
We might have to have a dedicated phone extension for each one of us.
Correct, yeah.
I bring it up because with our company, we have used a different voice over IP phone system. I don't know what you guys are using, but we do have some phone extensions for some of our team that don't use their phone often. And there is no monthly fee so long as they don't make or receive more than 10 calls per month. It's a free account, just to use the app. So I would feel more comfortable if we had, I think, a little more separation personally from my personal life versus my public elected duty official responsibility. So thank you for looking into that. It was brought up by somebody on council about and they may speak to this themselves, about just the echo chamber at the port commission meeting. And it was, the conversation I was having with this person was right before he went to, Thanksgiving holiday. And while I was on, celebrating Thanksgiving with family, one of my family members, who's a Vietnam veteran, mentioned that he was at a town hall meeting, and he could hear nothing that was happening, and he just got up and left. And so it was just interesting. I had this conversation with 2 veterans, that mentioned that they were having a problem hearing. And we've talked a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think it was very generous of the port to make that space available to us, but I think that if, we're having future events, we may look at a different venue that has better acoustics, because I think that was a problem for several people.
Yes.
And then last thing I want to say, I really appreciate you hand delivering our cancel packets. But I think that it's a job that really, we need to find another solution. I think that, you're too busy to be running around town dropping off our packets, and I really want to be supportive of our 4-day work week. But we need to have a better solution, I feel like, than having you hand deliver our packets. Do we have another solution that's?
So it's Carrie, the meeting before, is you put the Thanksgiving holiday, a lot of people were off that afternoon, so I did it.
I guess, but is the permanent solution that we're gonna have city staff hand delivering our packets to us?
No, this was just because we were closed Wednesday and Thursday, not Wednesday, Thursday and Friday because of the holiday.
So why was it delivered the week before the prior one as well?
Veterans Day.
Okay, so.
Yes, so we weren't open on that Thursday for people to come pick up the packet, that's why we delivered them.
Couldn't we, I guess, announce that city is gonna be closed on Thursday and need to pick up the packets on Wednesday?
Also too, their email, link, you can always get them online.
And I know that I personally like to look at printed documents, and I
Yeah.
really get that, and, I do get the emailed one, and I fully have the ability to print that, but I don't know if everybody has.
Well, I mean, like, so Sean doesn't get off work till 5:30, doesn't get back into town till 6 o'clock, and we're closed by the time he's back in town, so. Mayor Fallon's got meetings in Gresham on occasion, so.
Well, I'd be happy to help either
Send you a check.
any counselor that requires picking up their council packet earlier, if it would alleviate our staff from having to run that errand. And that was my only point, is I just feel like you guys have enough on your plate, you don't need to be delivering their packets to us.
You're on record, you'll.
No, I don't mind helping out either. I mean, two of the counselors live near me, so
You guys live in clusters.
yes.
That's right.
Okay.
It can also be mailed.
True.
So that's really all I had. I just was thinking of all the things we say and how we appreciate you. Whatever we can take off your plate and help you gain more time, I think is one way that we can show our appreciation.
Councilmember Miller?
Yeah, I'd like to thank staff for all their hard work and, yeah, that meeting, I probably heard half of it. It was just, the acoustics in there don't work. And, that's all I have.
Councilmember Farrell?
First I want to give a big thank you to Chief Logan, who attended the Special Olympics ceremony last Tuesday. It was great to have someone from Cascade Box represent us. And for you coming to the competition one, that was great too. We really enjoyed having someone there. Let's see. So, speaking of the Port City joint meeting, does anyone know if they plan to put minutes out on that? That would be helpful, especially for the people that couldn't hear.
I think there should be, they're supposed to.
Okay, you think that, okay, all right. I been back and forth a little bit with Jordan about the charter review committee. It looks like we're gonna be waiting until our January 8th city council meeting to review them. I'd really like to get a deadline advertised so that people know this. For the January 8th meeting, then a suggested deadline would be January 4th by 6 p.m. I think January 4th is a Thursday, but I think people need to have the deadline. What if someone doesn't know about us going through them on January 8th, and they're like, oh shoot, I was gonna turn it in tomorrow. They don't know, so.
We might need a few more days since the New Year's and that week.
Yeah, but yeah, I really would like.
Up with a deadline.
I mean, we can always, if we don't have enough applicants, we can always say it's open for another 2 weeks or whatever, but, I think we have to be real forward with that, because it's kind of a.
Well, yeah, so it's gotta
subject
be
anyway.
in the packet for review, so. It would have to be January 2nd, because the packet would go out January 3rd. So
Okay,
close of business January 2nd would be the deadline.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that would make me happy. Just wanted to give everyone a reminder that the hometown Christmas event is Saturday, December 9th, between 4 and 9 p.m. at Gorgeous Beer. And everyone is welcome to stop by and attend that. And lastly, I wanted to get something off my chest here. So I take my position on city council, and as a Christian very seriously. I would never advocate to forbid translation services to another person. And clearly the counselor and his student who said these things about me do not know me at all. I am sorry that I was misunderstood, and I will in the future try to articulate better. And that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Baker?
I want to thank the staff as usual. Thank you, Special Olympic parents and volunteers for coming in and for helping run this in our county. Boy, when going out to see the bowling really made me want to have a bowling alley here. Anybody else? And thank you for bringing up the Christmas event. There are several in town. I hope that folks will attend. I do believe there is a giving tree at Gorgeous right now.
Yeah.
So folks, I guess there are tags on there and you choose to.
It's two things. You can fill out a form to submit your child for the giving tree. And then there's also the second part, if you want to buy for the child, then you take a tag off the tree.
Okay. And then also, I wanted to ask on the charter review committee, I had a person in the city say when they clicked the link for the application, it didn't show. Again, that could be their tech error. Don't know if it's something you want to check.
Okay, well, that's it.
Okay. And then, thanks. Do we have people that applied yet? Okay, so it's working for somebody. Good. And thanks to Micaela for applying for planning commission, and all the folks who are volunteering. We sure appreciate that. And I know it might not be easy to contact me. Is it on the webpage? If somebody is already interested in Main Street, please contact me. I will be getting more information out. And or if you contact the city, they can send it to me. And again, it's not Denise as a part of city council, but me moving the role from our contact toward a group in the community. So more to come in January on that. Thanks everybody for everything that you're doing. I see that we have the Hood River County Warming Shelter. That's probably the nearest to us. Is there one in Stevenson open yet?
No, I don't know.
That we can share those, because obviously we don't have that. If we needed that for folks.
I think I did see something on that. I'll look it up.
Right, and I thought I saw something on the cat bus, which I'll try to find, that will provide transportation to some of these places. So I will follow up and confirm that and get it out in the community page at least. And I think I'm just thinking about winter. That's all I have to say. Thank you to the board for the joint meeting. Thank you for this council that we're going to meet about the strategic plan, because that's exciting.
All right. Councilmember.
I just would like to reiterate, the difficulty it is to recuse yourself from a vote and to sit here and listen to your professionalism be questioned when absolutely none of you reached out to discuss this with me or my wife. Please, if you're gonna question my character, have a conversation with me, please. I want to give a huge shout out to Tiffany. As a former athletic coach myself, I know the time and dedication it takes to volunteer in those types of situations, and the lessons that you learn as an athlete are impeccable. And a shout out to the PTO Marketplace on Saturday, and don't forget to pick up your poinsettias. And if you didn't get a poinsettia, they have extras.
Thank you. Councilmember Compton.
I would like to thank our Special Olympians for coming and presenting and showing us their wonderful trophies. It's always good to see athletes enjoying what they do. I was a coach once on time, and it's always a wonderful thing to see people enjoying the sport they're participating in. I'm interested to see what snow sports you guys have going on for your athletes. As a avid skier myself, and word of caution: poinsettias are poisonous to dogs,
Yes.
so
Oh,
be careful.
nice. All right, thank you. I didn't know that. Good to know.
They're beautiful.
First, thank you to the city, and thank you for dropping off the packets. Really appreciated that. I do have a crazy schedule. A lot of times I don't get back on this side of town until really late, but now I know I can text you, council unhappy, and will grab my packet for me if it happens again. Thank you to Special Olympics athletes and Tiffany great job. It's just, I absolutely love seeing the smiles and the beanie and the trophies, and it just, it just doesn't get any better than that. So thank you for bringing it in and presenting, and I thought it was really well done, and my hat's off to you for coaching. I know it takes a lot of time and effort, so really appreciate that. Councilmember, Happy, thank you. I like the app idea for the phone. I do agree. It is tough as a public official to have your personal phone number. Maybe someday, I know the port, they went after a grant, and all their port commissioners, they have a phone and a little laptop or iPad or something. So maybe, you know, we can look at that down the road, but I do, it would be nice to have that private, so, good job on that. And then the hometown Christmas, thank you to everyone who stepped up and is doing that. From what I understand, Samantha, she's done quite a bit. A lot of people have donated towards it. And so I just, my hat's off to them, and gorgeous and really a good team event. My Chief Logan, I can't say how much, living in a small town, these are some of the benefits. There was a senior living in the community who needed to get out of the house safely, who was unable to, and called him. He got her out of the house, we got her into a car, got her to her appointment, got back, called again, can you come back again? Got her safely back in her home. And just the fire department, our fire department, I'm so incredibly proud of them and so thankful for them. And then they came back today to help assist her get out of her home, because there's quite a few stairs and whatnot. So she got out safely once again, and they were very patient and very, very kind. So I thank them. Thank you to the port for the meeting. Yes, the acoustics, that's something to take into consideration. So, we'll have to figure that out, or they'll have to figure that out, but I really thank them for their time and effort on that. And then, gosh, and I think that's about it. So I just, you know, hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving, and holidays are upon us. I know stress can sometimes creep in, but just great day, get through the holidays. And I just want to really say I appreciate Jordan, city staff, all the counselors, everything. It's been a good year. We've got quite a bit done. So, and at the end of the day, we're all on the same page. We all want a nice community, you know, where everyone's safe. There's lots of activities and lots of things for kids. But I think we're all on the same page in that at the end of the day. So I just want to thank everybody and have a good holiday season going into it. I know we have one more meeting. So, and that is it. Get a motion to adjourn.
You adjourn.
Second. There's a executive by Councilman Keller. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Compton,
Aye.
Emily Baker, aye. Farrell, aye. Happy,
Aye.
Keller,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Mayor Fallon.
Aye.